My name's John Passfield, and the title of this reading will be The Mammoth Cheese Video 6, The Ballad of John and Jane Roe. This is my novel, James McIntyre, The Mammoth Cheese, novel by John Passfield, historical photo of the mammoth cheese in its traveling case from 1866. With a contribution of 800 cows, the tiny village of Ingersoll, Ontario, Canada, has not only produced the world's largest block of cheese, it has also nurtured the epic poet who can rapturously sing its praises. Now, if only Queen Victoria can be persuaded to take a hearty bite and add her majestic voice to the poet's ecstatic hymns of praise, the mammoth cheese will become the edible jewel in the crown of the globe-girdling British Empire. Well, the days of empire. In this video, I'm going to read The Ballad of John and Jane Roe. This is a poem that I found in the book of poetry that the historical James McIntyre published in 1884. In the novel, which is the record of the thoughts of the fictional James McIntyre, 2 couplets of this poem are placed at the end of each of the 16 chapters of thought in what I call the coda minor cycle of imagery. So let's have a look at the ballad then. So each chapter of thought is 2,500 to 3,000 words. But at the end of each chapter, as a coda, some sort of summing up, in his mind, in each chapter of thought, he places 2 couplets from this ballad, which he himself has written. An English youth to Canada came, a labourer, John Roe by name. His little wealth had made him bold, 20 sovereigns in gold. Well, that's the coda at the end of chapter 1. We go to the end of chapter 2, 2,500, 3,000 more words of thought, and then this. He was industrious and wise, and e'en small sums did not despise. He added to his wealth each year, for independence he loved dear. So that's the second one. The third one, at the end of chapter 3, 3 chapters of thought. He knew a labourer he would be forever in the old country. His forefathers had tilled the ground, and never one had saved a pound. The end of the next chapter, chapter 5. On beds of down they did not lie, and frugally their goods did buy. Their one luxury around their door, a few choice flowers their garden bore. So it's a story of emigration from the old country, itchy nose here, immigration to the new country. But never hope to own the soil, but serve as hinds to sweat and toil. To work and toil for him had charm. He hoped someday to own a farm. So he would never own a farm in the old country. He would own a farm simply by working hard in the new country. John Roe. So he hired with Reuben Tripp, the wealthiest man in the township. Tripp's only child, his daughter Jane. He sought her love, and not in vain. So, okay, we move on to the 7th chapter and 7th segment of thought. As Jacob served for Rachel dear, so John he served year after year, till rich enough to buy bush farm for to chop down with his strong arm. So he saves his money, he works hard, he buys a farm in the bush, the Canadian bush. He his young oxen did adorn with fine gay ribbons on each horn, and to his home with joy and pride he did bring sweet blooming bride. Okay, that's halfway through the novel, halfway through the 16 chapters of thought, because that was chapter 8. Here's chapter 9, the end of chapter 9. Such happiness is seldom seen, happier far than king or queen. She helped him in the fields to reap, and spun the wool from off the sheep. Now we go to the end of chapter 10. Now there's 10 chapters of thought about his own life. And this is somehow a descant on his life. Talk about it in a minute. All they required they had for both, of her own weaving of good cloth, and she was a good tailoress, did make him coat and her own dress. Okay, then chapter 11 of thought. Where are we here? Okay. The golden butter that she made was of the very finest grade. Each grace and virtue she possessed, where'er she was, that spot was blessed. For chapter 12 of his thoughts, the conclusion is, the coda is, and though they did not have stove then, neither did they own an oven. She filled large pot with well-knead dough, and baked fine bread 'mong embers glow. Okay. He each winter the forest trees did quickly hew them down with ease, for he to work had a desire, and the skill did soon acquire. End of chapter 14, the coda, the imagery in his mind. And soon potatoes, wheat, and corn, they did the rugged stumps adorn, and Jane did help him with the hoe, and well she did keep her row. 15. We're getting to the end of this ballad, to the end of his thoughts. No organ then had they to play, but she could work and sing all day. In spring he did live maples tap, to draw from them the luscious sap. Now the last chapter of thought, and this is the coda too, not only to the last chapter of thought, chapter 16, but to the whole 36,000 word novel of thought. He gathered it in big log trough, then boiled it down and sugared off. Enough the household for to cheer, with all its sweets for the whole year. So that's the Ballad of John and Jane Roe, a layer of imagery in the mind of the main character, James McIntyre. Here's a conclusion that I'd like to read. Imagery is a language in which we humans think at the deepest levels. We employ imagery as an aid to thinking in many ways. We employ imagery in parallel to our main thoughts, and we use imagery in contrast to our main thoughts. When you read this novel, you will become aware of the foremost preoccupations of the main character, James McIntyre. You will also become aware that each time the main character concludes what I think of as a chapter of thought, a block of thought, a section or segment of thought, he, that is his mind, at some level of his consciousness-subconsciousness continuum, references the lives of John and Jane Roe. So, in your opinion, does he do so because he feels that the two lives, his own life and that of John and Jane Roe, are both on track, as it were, or both off track, or because he feels that one is on track and the other has somehow become off track? Just how, I'm asking, is the John and Jane Roe imagery functioning in the 36,000 word thought pattern in the mind of the main character, James McIntyre, as he takes stock of the present moment in his life? Well, all I read in this video was the illuminating imagery, the Ballad of John and Jane Roe, but all of the other imagery in the novel, not all of it, of course, some of it is also deepening imagery, illuminating imagery as well, but much of the imagery in this novel is about his present situation, his life that he's evaluating at a certain point in that life. So, once again, this is my novel. It's James McIntyre, The Mammoth Cheese, a novel by John Passfield. More information on Amazon, where it's available. More information on my publisher's website, roxmillspress.com. More information at johnpassfield.ca, all one word, in the form of 2 free books, my planning notebook and my journal. So, having said all of that, I'll simply say thank you for watching this video.